yes, I pose. Best thing in the world. No charge for anybody else in brown skin girl.
Welcome to the Melanin Moms podcast, where we make women feel heard and seen so that you know that you are not alone. My name is Corey.
And my name is Kayla.
And we are the Melanin Moms.
The affirmation of the week is I am enough.
I am enough.
We are enough. How are you feeling?
Today I'm feeling like a 9. Then it kind of went to a 7. Now I'm back at a 9.
We had some technical difficulties, so I was at a 9, and then I went down to a shaky 7, but I feel pretty good. Welcome to the hood.
Motherhood.
Last week we talked about pregnancy. Today we're talking about mattress sense and postpartum.
If you've made it this far and you're no longer pregnant, welcome to the 4th trimester.
Good luck. As mothers and as women, it's so important to understand the physiological changes that happen in your body. Now, if you've heard of puberty that happens during adolescence, matrescence is known as the second form of puberty in women, and it literally means the process of becoming a mother. Did you know that your brain shrinks during pregnancy?
I did not know that. That's crazy.
After you have your baby, your brain is going to increase in size. But can you imagine how much that impacts a mother as she's building a baby in her belly? Her brain is shrinking.
Yeah, it's almost like you kind of lose space for other things because you're making room for this new life.
Exactly. That is exactly what's happening. So a lot of mothers who are pregnant may have, it's called mom brain. You know, you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Trouble with stability and feel kind of clumsy. Also because your hips are, looser. A lot of that has stuff to do with your brain shrinking. During matrescence, when a mother is born, and that is when her baby is born, there's so much that goes on. Let's dive into it. So when a woman becomes a mother, there's a lot that goes on in the brain. There are cognitive changes. Some new mothers, they report cognitive decline. They have impaired memory. They may have struggles with concentrating. They may feel absent-minded. Synaptic pruning is when the synapses in the brain, they are like shutting off certain information to make space for you to receive new information. It's kind of making space for you becoming a mother, and all of that information that you're going to be downloading, that is synaptic pruning. There's increased activity in the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of your brain that rules your emotions. At 25 years old, your prefrontal cortex fully develops, which means that you're able to think logically, you make decisions using rationality. But before that, your brain is making decisions based on your amygdala, which is how you process emotions.
Okay.
So it's common to see a lot of similarities between like adolescents and new mothers and how they express their emotions, because there's so much more activity going on there when a mom becomes a mom. There's changes in your hypothalamus, which help with hormone functioning. Also changes with your gray matter in your brain. Gray matter is a key part of the brain and the spinal cord, and its functions are for memory, movement, emotions, learning, and reasoning. So when your gray matter is reduced during matrescence, all of these areas, memory, movement, emotions, learning, reasoning, are shifting. It's so important that women know what's going on, because people will call you crazy, and I pinky promise you're not.
You are not crazy at all. A lot of these experiences are experiences that a lot of mothers go through, if not all mothers go through at some extent. It just might look different for you. I'm curious, now that, you've talked about motherhood and matrescence, what was that first experience like for you after giving birth to your child and getting discharged? Those first few days or even weeks, what was that experience like?
I felt like a superwoman. The first 2 days, and I did have a C-section, I didn't even feel the C-section pain. I was just so in awe of having a baby and having this little life, getting used to nursing. That was exciting for me, so I was so focused on that. We were in the hospital for probably 2 days. You had to pass gas in order to be able to be discharged.
Yeah.
So once I was able to do that, and once I was able to do that, then I was able to go. The hospital was nice. They were comforting. They just kind of took care of some of his basic needs while I was recovering. But once it was time to go home, that may have been when I started to panic a little bit. Because he was not little, but he was 10 pounds. And I've held babies before, but to hold my own son, it was like, this thing is super fragile.
Yeah.
How the heck do I bathe this thing? Like, where's my muscle memory to know exactly where everything felt kind of awkward?
It is. It's an awkward thing, especially when you're doing it for the first time. You're trying to get into the swing of things and get into a routine. And
Yeah.
I think that's where you start to panic because you're like, I don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
And that's when it's, great to go ahead and rely on people that are also mothers or people that can be there to comfort you during those first few stages of his life or her life, as well as to be your support person during that transition because you're going to need it.
So Corey, what was that like for you with your first son?
With my first son, it was a pretty surreal experience because, it's the first time having a child. And I was also young, as we all know. I created this. Like, this is
No
mine.
way. No way. I did that.
Yeah, it was like, I'm really a mom. Like, this is so crazy. That aside, I was extremely exhausted and tired. I spent most of my hospital stays just trying to get as much sleep as I could. And also in between that, I'm like periodically checking on my baby to make sure he's still breathing because I'm scared I was deathly afraid of SIDS. I just wanted to make sure he was okay at all times. So between me and Dante, we were like waking up just to make sure he was alive.
Yes. And the anxiety that comes along with that is another level of anxiety.
I agree. But I think mentally, my perspective changed as well.
So you mentioned support during that time. What did that look like for you when you brought Princeton home for the first time? Did you have support, and who were those people?
I did have support because at the time I was living with my parents, so they were my support. The dynamic was a little bit weird with that because Dante wasn't able to be there full time, so he wasn't able to be there during those nights, those sleepless nights. And that's when I needed the help the most. I didn't have as much help as I would have liked. And I think that in turn led to my postpartum depression. So he was there during the days when he could, when he was in town, but he was 4.5 hours away from where I was currently living at. So it was really hard on me because it kind of felt like I was a single mother for a while.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you, those sleepless nights?
First 2 nights, it was like, this ain't nothing.
Yeah.
I've stayed up all night studying before. Like, come on, God, what you got for me? I loved waking up to sing to him. I was dead exhausted. Like, I'm taking medicine for my C-section. That made me tired. Waking up in the middle of the night to nurse him. There was one time he peed on me. It's the first time.
Yeah.
I was angry and frustrated because I was tired and I just wanted to go back to sleep. I will say, to just being transparent, that as a mother, when you have a baby, and especially if you're nursing, it kind of feels like you're alone anyway in the middle of the night. And you're going to feel like that. It's common. With my son, I couldn't get a full night of sleep. My body wouldn't let me. I was so anxious because I did co-sleep, but I was awake. I could hear him breathing. So if there was a pause in his breathing, I'm already on it. Like, I was already anxious while resting, so I never slept.
I mean, I can agree with you there. Like, I'm the same way. And even with my second, with Carter, he's still breastfeeding to this very day, and I'm still not getting a full night's rest. It's hard. I struggle some days. Some days I'm like good and I can wake up and get ready for my day. Other days I feel like I got hit by a bus and I'm going to need 10 cups of coffee to make it through the day. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Hey, when you become a mother, you have like a heightened sense of smell.
Yeah.
You can smell when they poop, especially if you're breastfeeding. It's a distinct smell of their poop because of the breast milk.
It smells like popcorn. Like
I
butter
wouldn't say popcorn. I get mustard vibes, but maybe because it looks like mustard, I just kind of put two and two together.
It's like tangy.
Yeah, like a weird tangy smell.
And you get a hint of it, and it's like, he pooped.
Yeah. Let's talk about those explosions.
He has pooped while I was changing him, and I was just like, wow, this is cool. That's probably the most extreme it's been for Ezra.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, thank goodness. Newsflash, a few weeks ago, Corey showed up to the door with Carter, and poop was everywhere.
I was covered in poop. I had to change into her clothes, take a shower with Carter, and change his clothes as well. It was a mess. It was everywhere.
Let's also talk about the smell.
The smell.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about when we come home from giving birth, right?
Yeah.
I would say with my first, not really my second, but with my first, there's something that happens when your hormones are all over the place, and sometimes after giving birth, bacteria and stuff can get in because you're open and you stay open for a long time, and it can create a smell, an unwanted
Wait,
smell.
are we talking about the smell down there or the smell right here?
Oh, we're talking about the smell. I'm talking about the smell down there.
Oh, okay.
You didn't have the smell?
No.
Well, okay. It's a thing. I'm not crazy. It's a thing where you can have a smell down there. Okay?
Everything is
And
open. Don't do anything before 6 weeks.
some people do.
I
And
know.
I'm fine, but
Because
I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, bacteria can get in there and you can have a smell, and it does not smell pleasant at all. I went through it, and I had to go get antibiotics and take it for like I think 7 to 14 days, maybe something like that. And then after that, you're fine and good to go. And these are things that women don't like to talk about, but this is something that can happen to you after giving birth, and it's completely normal.
are you talking about BB?
It might be something like BV
Did it
because
smell
it's
like
like
fish?
no, it doesn't smell like fish. It
Oh.
smells like trash.
Oh.
Yeah,
Take out that trash. Okay,
Yeah.
then it's not BB.
yeah.
So it's got to be, I mean, it's trash. There's a lot happening. Your body's shedding
Mhm.
cells, all the extra tissue it doesn't need is coming out. You're bleeding for 6 weeks or however long. So, as you're going through this, just let your body process and expel. That's also why a lot of people don't like to be around people when they have their babies because they're going through it.
And you feel gross. You don't want to be around a bunch of people and they're all up in your space. You just want to be able to relax and feel the most comfortable
With your baby.
in the current state that you're in.
Yeah. So we're gonna move up to these bad boys. And if you are a breastfeeding mama like we are, then I know you know what we're talking about. And I know for sure your baby knows exactly what we're talking about. This is that funky underarm smell. Do you know why our underarms stink so bad after birth? It is because your baby knows where your milk is. It helps them know exactly where your breast is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it smells extra funky, and the baby like, where's the? I'll say that the smell did not last for that long, though. Maybe like 3 or 4 months, and then after that, I think the smell became more manageable as your hormones start to regulate. That's also when your hair starts to fall out.
And besides all the physical changes that are happening to you during this time, there's also a lot of mental changes that can happen to you.
Yes.
I remember with my first, I was going through postpartum depression so bad that it got to a point I was laying in my bed and the lights were all off and I'm just laying there, just like completely still. And my mom comes into the room and she's looking at me and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I just start crying.
Oh, that's probably the most quiet time you had. Or
Yes.
sometimes as a mom, like self-care looks like just sitting still for a moment and be like, what the heck? I can say there's so much mental changes. And after a week of not having enough sleep, how do you think you'll feel after 3 months of not getting good sleep? You're sleeping on your back, on your right side, with your hand behind your head, because that's the only way your baby can nurse
Yeah.
and can sleep comfortably. You're going to be frustrated and angry because of the lack of sleep. And as we were trying to get used to a schedule, I mean, I was having cravings. I needed to eat breakfast every day. Like I was always in early to make breakfast and try to get on a routine and schedule. And it felt like I was so alone in those first stages. I felt like I wanted to take on so much of that responsibility of like showing up for my son. So I had a really hard time letting anyone do anything for my son. You want to change him? No. You want to nurse? You want to give him a bottle? No. It was hard for me to even feel comfortable to go out because I just, in my head, if I'm out, I'm just thinking about, he's going to call any second that Ezra's up and I'm going to have to go back. And I should have just stayed home because it's easier that way. So I think that had a lot to do with me and my mental state. It mattered more to me to be with my son than for me to go and like spend time with you. I think the first time I went out was with you that one time.
Okay.
Wow. I wasn't fully there because I was in my head at home with my son. So
That's interesting because it's almost like as you're talking, I feel like your experience was so different than mine, but it was also like the complete opposite because she wanted to be home. You wanted to be home with your kid, and I was the opposite. I didn't want my kid at all. Like I wanted him as far away as possible. I really did struggle. Like I wouldn't say I had like suicidal thoughts at all with Princeton, but I will say with Carter, I did. I got to that point where, and you even know this, I called you literally crying on the phone because I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. Let's open up some space because a lot of mothers, even if they're not normally depressed or in these states of mind, it's easy to feel like you're suffocated in this new transition. And it really is not meant to be that way. It really does take a village. So the support that we have is so, if you have anyone who can support you, it's really a blessing because we were not meant to do this alone. Yet, so many women as mothers feel like they are alone in that process. It leads to postpartum depression. It leads to postpartum anxiety. It leads to postpartum rage. All of those things can lead to these feelings of not wanting to be here anymore. And then you also start to feel guilty because it's like, how can I ever think that my children are watching me?
Yeah, you feel like you have to be the best version of yourself. And it's like, why am I thinking like this? I have nobody. Why do I feel so alone?
Yeah. Even if you're surrounded by people, like you can still feel that isolation and loneliness. And that comes along with motherhood, especially in today's world. There's so much expectations for a mother, especially a working mom, and that's another thing. It's something that you need to give yourself a pat on the back and also give yourself a hug. Can we all give ourselves a hug?
Yeah, give yourself a big hug.
I suffered a lot of anxiety, and I still have a lot of anxiety. Like, I always felt I always felt like someone was watching me. That made me anxious. So I wanted to do everything right, and I feel like I was doing everything wrong, and I still doubt myself so much, and I question myself so much when it comes to so many decisions for him. And part of me hates that I feel that way because I've always imagined I would feel very comfortable in the role of being a mother. And it's not even like financial things. It is literally drawing back to me as a person and like my values of myself and my morals. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's a deep level of anxiety.
Even now, like the background noise of Ezra just making a lot of commotion while we're trying to film, I can tell it gives her anxiety because it's hard to focus.
Yeah.
It's hard to just
juggle other responsibilities while you're having it. Like when he would take a nap as a newborn, I'm like, what do I do? What can I do? Do I take a shower? Do I do my hair? Do I go to the bathroom for 2 minutes alone? Do I go make myself some lunch because I'm starving and I'm cold because I'm anemic?
There's so many things, and it's hard to think, like when you're thinking about those things, it's all because of your baby. You're thinking about your baby first and you're second.
Yes.
And it's like you almost lose yourself.
You do lose yourself. I lost myself. I'm like, he is first, I will be second. And I'm just now being like, I can't make him first because I have to put myself there. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just going to want to jump off the cliff.
No,
but I want to, but not that I want to jump off the cliff, but like,
it makes you just go crazy. You got to put yourself first at some point because you can't take care of anyone else without taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, exactly. At around 2 years postpartum, you start to have your hormones really regulate. And then you start to also feel more like yourself and look more like yourself. And your child's a little bit more independent. So you kind of have more space in those first few months of postpartum, hood in the 4th trimester. You get swallowed up by this little piece of joy. I'm a twin. We were premature 8 months. I was 4 pounds when I was born.
Wow.
My sister was 3 pounds. My mom went to work 4 weeks after she gave birth to twins.
Wow.
I suffer with depression and anxiety, so I can only imagine the mothers who are sometimes forced to go to work in situations, be away from their babies, who may want to be with them. I can only imagine how they are coping. I'm going to nurse. Okay. Because we're breastfeeding moms.
Do what you got to do.
We do what we got to do. Let's talk about all the snacks that we spill in our little kids' heads when eating and nursing.
I've dropped plenty of food on Carter He's such a small little thing that when I'm nursing him, I gotta eat. I can't wait on you.
Okay.
That postpartum breastfeeding hunger kicks in, and you're starving all the time. You have to drink so much water being postpartum because you have to replenish all of the liquid that they're taking out of you.
It's actually crazy.
Like with that self-care and taking care of yourself, like you have to because you won't be able to function and you won't be able to produce milk for your child.
Yes. When he was 1 month old or 2 months old, I was worried and I thought I'd have to supplement with formula because I didn't know if I was producing enough. I tried pumping. It just didn't work for me because he would go down to take a nap after I just nursed him. I would go to pump and I'd maybe pump 2 ounces and then he would wake up and drink those 2 ounces. So it was like a redundant cycle for me that just didn't work. He always felt very hungry because he was cluster feeding,
Yeah.
which means that they're just feeding consistently. But really, my body was just adjusting and adapting, and obviously he still nurses, so and he's good. But the fear of not producing enough milk is so relevant in a lot of women postpartum, and they worry about how they're going to feed their babies.
The formula obviously is an option. Some people do both. And I actually did do both with my first child. With my second child, I exclusively breastfeed. Was a little bit hard at first, but I got the hang of it because I know the first time I didn't really have the opportunity to be fully breastfeeding all the time. With the formula thing, I know there's a lot of moms out there that don't want to give them that stuff and they want to do it naturally, and that's okay. Just take extra measures to make sure that you are producing enough. Sometimes it might mean pumping in between just so you can get your body used to pumping more milk.
Yes.
Maybe they are sleeping, try to pump then. There's this thing called like pump for 5 or pump. It's like a certain amount of minutes that you pump for and then you wait and then you pump again. But
to help stimulate.
yeah, it's like tricking your body into making more milk.
Between this, watching bottle parts and all of that, just he can just drink the milk from her. And I hope to goodness he's all right. Thank goodness he was. But that's so complicated. For the moms who bottle feed with formula, I give you so much credit for keeping those bottles clean consistently.
Yeah, especially those Dr. Browns because those are extremely hard to clean. I want to say that if you are going through any sort of postpartum, if it's getting to a point where you feel like that you need to talk to someone to talk you off that ledge, I would recommend therapy because therapy.
I would recommend therapy too. Go to therapy, you crazy.
It sounds crazy, but like there's a lot of options out there for you to do. I know for me, I was able to participate in this program called Borum Anywhere, and it was basically like a therapist or a coach, and they had weekly or even monthly meetings with you, and they just basically talk about how you're feeling, and it's basically catered to the fourth trimester women. So it was very helpful in those first few months. I cried on some of my calls. It really does help just getting to talk to someone that isn't your direct family, someone that you can open up to and not feel like you are feeling any sort of shame or guilt. You can just be open and free.
Yeah.
No judgment.
Sometimes you definitely need an outsider to just hear you out and help validate how you're feeling. Someone who's specialized in that specific phase of life you're in. We can reach out to our families, but they have specific expectations because of their experiences. So although they're here to support you, they may not know how to support you specifically. Go to someone who is specialized in it and speak with them and then trust how they make you feel. That's something that I know I really could have benefited from and still could, is having someone who knows my story, knows how I've been feeling, knows my process, who I can talk to about how I'm feeling, and they can, again, validate my experiences. Your feelings are valid.
You are enough, and you do not have to feel like you have to bottle all this up inside.
You should be embracing motherhood and mothers as they are bringing forth a new life that is here to help this world. But there's not a lot of resources. There is a lot of shaming on mothers and their situations. And the fact that there's sometimes not enough support. Some mothers have to go back to work. They don't even get a chance to process their experiences. So they have no choice but to bottle it up. And then they're shamed by people making them feel like they're crazy. And then you wonder why people are feeling depressed or anxious and raging out. And postpartum rage is when all of that comes up and out, and it comes out in an ugly way that could have 100% been avoided. It should never get to that point.
Even now, sometimes I deal with it, like with my two kids. Sometimes it just gets overwhelming, and I'm just like trying to talk myself down. Like, okay, like you've got two kids, they're relying on you, they need you. But it's like, what about me?
Right.
What about my needs?
When you're so focused on the needs of two little ones.
Yeah.
Like some people can't even manage their own emotions
Yeah.
and their experiences. So imagine managing two little ones and your own. It's a lot. So mothers, you deserve so much credit. And you also deserve to have someone in your ear whispering, like on Bluey, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
I've said this before, but you're a great mother.
Thank you, Corey. You are a great mother as well.
Thank you.
And I want you to know that you are such a reliable person, you're a compassionate person, and you are enough. Okay? You're enough, and you just keep pouring into your cup. No matter how much time is empty, keep pouring into your cup. It'll overflow and bless the world. Okay, every mother's cup deserves to be filling in some way. Newborns on a sleep schedule, just toss it out the window. In my opinion, listen, you're trying to regulate your sleep schedule. The goal is to make sure your baby gets enough sleep and you get enough sleep, okay?
Do what you can when you can.
Yes.
They say sleep when the baby sleeps, but
That's impossible.
I hate that saying.
I hate it. It's impossible. Because like I'm in school, I'm working. What do you mean? I didn't eat breakfast yet.
Exactly. I need to clean.
Don't stress yourself out about it. Do what you can with what you got. Make sure you get enough rest if you can. Even if you just lay down for a minute and look at the sky. You just had a baby, but you're also a baby. You're a baby mom. You're a newborn too. In a new phase of life, your brain has went through changes. So you have to treat yourself with as much respect as you want to treat your newborn child. And it's hard to. So that's why your mothers, your grandmothers, any woman who's in proximity to you who can offer some support to you that's valuable, appreciate it. Because they care about you and they can probably understand how you're feeling in some way, especially if they were a mom. So, lean into them.
I feel like when you're talking, like you're actually speaking to me because of my like current situation, but also like you're coming from experiences too, and me too. But I feel like in some ways it's sometimes hard to talk about it because I'm still going through it. So even though I sit here and I smile, like I still have my moments where, that postpartum kicks in and I have friends and people that I can rely on to get me through it. And it just goes to show that you're not alone.
You're not alone. And the more that we talk about this, the more noise we create, the more that we're educated on what is going on in our bodies and we share the information with other mothers, we can build our own village of support online. Thank goodness we live in a time and age where we are connected on this level. So let's take advantage of that and support and uplift each other. And that is what this whole podcast is about. But this is a normal transition in most people's lives. Not everyone is going to be a mother, but those who are, they deserve acknowledgement and, support for their experience. So I'm not going to hold that back from nobody. And if this is what we can do to advocate for it, then let's band together, hold hands. She supports me with Ezra, and he's 2 years old, and I still feel like I got postpartum rage. It is important to take care of yourself because you have little people watching you, and they're going to learn how to regulate themselves by watching you. So we just need to also learn how to do it for ourselves. And that's me speaking to me because I struggle with that.
And with that, we'd like to close with a Bible verse from Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is near the brokenhearted. He saves those crushed in spirit.
Listen, mamas, I know it's hard. I know it's not easy, but we are here to remind you that you are enough. Okay, so no matter what challenges come up, what thoughts may come through your mind, I want you to repeat to yourself in the mirror, I am enough. Okay? Know that we love you. We're here to support you, So please like and subscribe to our channel. See you next week. This is the hood.
What can
We
you do?
can't hide it from you. This is the reality. So good luck through anything without your little shadow following you everywhere you go.
To motherhood.
To the hood. That's not mine though. Can you put some on my finger? Sorry, makeup crew came in. Can you give her some?
Oh, well, I can actually take some of mine.
Thank you, Ezra. Yeah,
Did you forget you were saying?
kind of.
Me too.
But that is this. This is the real deal.